I was genuinely concerned for my life at that time, so to be able to just make that phone call to her, it was important that I had that conversation. I wasn't sure whether it was going to be my last conversation at that time. My name is Jamie Ironmonger and I'm a serving police officer with the Ministry of Defence Police. I've been serving in the police for 16 years. I did 8 years in Hampshire Police on response and then 6 years on an on-response unit before leaving and joining the Ministry of Defence Police, and I'm a Marine Unit officer protecting the Royal Navy's fleet and the new aircraft carrier. The opportunity came to climb Mount Everest, and I decided that I wanted to use it as an opportunity to do some good, spread some awareness, and I was really quite passionate in doing that I wanted it to mean something rather than just someone climbing up to a mountain, reaching the summit and climbing back down again. With the issues I'd experienced in the police, dealing with a lot of traumatic frontline incidents, I discovered the charity Mind, and I was really impressed to see that they recognise the unique issues of mental health within the emergency services and the mental health battle that a lot of those people face. At base camp, I was lucky enough to have 3G, sometimes 4G, from a local mast that was run by the Chinese. As we began to carry out our first rotations away from base camp, pushing up to advanced base camp, which is at 6,400 metres, as soon as you round the first bend off the Rongbuk Glacier, all communications are gone, your phones don't work. But luckily I had my Thuraya X5 sat phone, and that stayed with me in my pocket. Everywhere I went on Everest I had that in my pocket, and it was kind of like, it gave me a sense of connection with the world, that I'm in this place, I'm in a pretty deadly area, but I've got communication, so if I need to ring home or talk to someone, I've got that phone. In the media there was a lot of attention around Everest this year with the fact that there were huge amounts of queues. And quite simply, this was because the weather window, which is the time frame that we've got to try and summit Everest, collapsed from about sort of 10 days down to a period of a day. And as it turned out, the actual opportunity to reach the summit turned out to be about 12 hours. We had state-of-the-art weather forecasting systems, and we saw the weather window collapsing, so did a lot of the other teams. So it was quickly, everyone had to decide whether they were going to go for the summit or not, and unfortunately everyone went at the same time, which caused queues and bottlenecks in technical parts of the climb. So when I left Camp 3, which is the highest camp in the world at 8,300 metres, I immediately ran into queues, literally 100 metres outside of camp. At one point I was stuck for 4 hours in a queue, whilst the ice formed all over my down suit, all over my oxygen cylinder was covered in ice, and it led to a failure with the regulator of my oxygen, and it basically let go of about half a tank of oxygen, so I had to fix that quickly. And then once that had been fixed, I knew I was already down on oxygen, and that getting to the summit at that point was going to be a huge gamble with the queues as well. But I pushed on, got up to the summit ridge, saw the summit of Everest. It was only about 100 metres vertical climb, but when I kept seeing the queues snaking all the way to the summit, I mean, it was absolutely incredible to see people literally sort of toe to toe at the height of a cruising jetliner. I decided that it probably wasn't a good idea to go any further, looked at my oxygen, realised that I couldn't guarantee my safe return if I carried on, so me and my Sherpa made a decision that it would be best to go back. So having got down from the summit ridge into Camp 3, as you already know, there were some problems with the storm. I was able to make a telephone call from this to my wife to let her know that I had got back to Camp 3 and I was in one piece, but and to let her know that I was stuck in a storm. I had run out of oxygen and I was struggling to breathe at that point, and I was genuinely concerned for my life at that time. So to be able to just make that phone call to her to let her know that I was okay, but ultimately I was still in quite a bit of peril, it was important that I had that conversation. I wasn't sure whether it was going to be my last conversation at that time. I was so impressed with AST, who provided me with some amazing technical support with it whilst I was away on Everest, that any further expeditions I go on, any other big mountains, I'll be coming to AST, and I will definitely be taking another sat phone with me.